Unleash the power. Unleash the power.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Ruckus Room. Today I have Darlene and Anna and Alan behind the desk, and we're going to talk about the airport in Flagler. There's some controversy going on right now regarding flight schools, people buying houses and not being told there's an airport over there, so they're really not knowing if they're coming from out of town. Um, just a whole bunch. There's so much to unravel here, so we'll probably do a couple shows because the area doesn't seem to be as educated in what's going on as maybe they might need to be. So, good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
Great. Thank you for having us.
No problem. So the first thing is I want to talk with Anna because briefly I know about you lived in St. Augustine.
No, we stayed there
You stayed there. Okay.
looking for a house.
So where did you find your realtor from? Were they in area or out of area?
Out of area. We were going to move to the villages. We didn't like all their restrictions.
Yeah. So you decided to get a realtor from that area to purchase a home in Palm Coast. Where
Yes.
was the house? In what area is it located in? The house that
My
you're in?
house?
Yes.
Z section
Okay. What year was this?
to winter of 2003.
Okay.
I mean 23.
23. Okay. So when you purchased your house and you're not familiar with the area, obviously, the realtor did not, or you had no idea there was an airport where your house is.
We knew there was an airport. We didn't know there were flight schools.
Okay. How many flights come in now to your knowledge every week or day? I don't know how you want to break it down.
Depending on the wind. So if we get the flights, we get the schools, it's 250
A day.
a day.
Okay. So they come out of
All
Daytona
day.
and they fly here and the new pilots just do touch and goes pretty much all day long.
Yep.
And okay. And so when you bought your house and moved in, how long did it take you to notice that there were airplanes?
The first week.
First week. So when you came here, you didn't see them because you weren't, obviously, I mean, some of the people don't stay at the house for 6 or 8 hours to look at a house that's being built.
Never knew. Never saw them.
So when you finally realized that, what did you do?
I called the airport and said, "What are these planes flying over my house? They're coming from this airport." And she said, "We don't have any planes taking off today." And I said, "What do you mean? There's planes from this airport." She goes, "No, they're not. We don't have any planes. Do we have any planes taking off today?" And he said, "No." I thought, what is this strange? It's
So, okay, so planes are landing in our airport, and this lady's telling you that she has no idea basically what's going on.
well, now I know that they never land. They don't land. They don't land or take off. They are doing a touch and go
Yeah.
from Daytona. So they're not originating at this airport.
So they leave Daytona, they come to our facility, they do a touch and go, and they go back out.
They leave in groups. Typically every morning they leave at 6:30 in groups of 5. They come out. They do a minimum 8 laps, which is like a NASCAR lap, like an oval, and an average 10 laps each. So that's 50. And about 9:30-ish, they all go back. I don't know if they switch pilots.
Yeah.
These planes are really overused. Some of them sound like the engine's going to fall. But 5 more come. They do the same thing, go back, 5 more come. They
So
do
when
this-
you found out this, did you go to our city council and say anything at first, or like what did you say when you found
It's
out?
operated by the county, not the city.
Or I'm sorry, the county? Who did you call first? Do you remember?
I started researching that there were people that were fighting this. No, I never approached the county. Not initially.
Not initially, but now we're that's why we're here today. You guys are starting to put together a campaign basically to eliminate the flight
Oh, I
schools.
created a website and a petition.
But we have begged the airport director to hear our pleas and, initiate a small fee for touch and goes that would be unilateral across the board to try to generate some income because the airport operates at a loss. Without the grants, they would be underwater.
Do you know how much the county is getting from these grants to have these touch and goes?
It's at least 70 million so far, and there's another 10 million pending for the terminal that they're trying to put up.
So
I
there's
think
an
the last-
expansion that we might be.
Well, we've
possibly.
already had at least one expansion. The expansion of the runway to 5,000 feet in around 2017 or 18 is what initiated this influx of training aircraft, excessive training aircraft, which, by the way, burn avgas, which has a list of toxic chemicals a mile long, including the most damaging is lead.
I feel like we could do a whole show just
We
on that.
definitely
Yeah.
could, because I
yeah.
could show you, what the EPA says about lead, what the hazards are to our children. They know that it causes learning disabilities in children. They believe it causes autism in children. It affects IQ of children, and it affects adults as well. But the biggest effects would be on our children. And the fact that lead has leachability factors, which leach into the ground, wash off the impervious surfaces into the canals. The canal right behind the airport flows into the headwaters for Graham Swamp. It flows into Bulow Creek, and Bulow Creek flows into the intracoastal. And St. John's Water Management Group has testing wells all around the county. And if you request the levels, you can see that in 2 years, the lead levels in Bulow are 5 times higher than they were 3 years ago.
That's the only well testing for lead. The other ones are not
Okay.
that we found.
So, if it's my understanding, the realtors don't have to disclose when you're buying in that area that you are by an airport that has a flight school.
It's not legal.
But now that the county has passed
This overlay.
the ordinance, which is called the airport zoning regulations, they were required in 2008 that I could see, and perhaps earlier. And those regulations would have curtailed incompatible uses within the airport. And they define incompatible uses as noise-sensitive areas, schools, homes, densely populated businesses, such as Tractor Supply, such as BJ's. These would have all been incompatible uses that would not have been allowed to be constructed if they had done what they were required to do for the FAA grants and the FDOT grants to get all this money.
Alan, what do you think about this? Because you've been here for a while. What do you think about this all?
Well, the first impression that everybody gives is, as you said
Yeah.
when we were opening, there's an airport there.
You should have known.
You should have
How
known.
did you not see
Right.
them?
How did you
Yeah.
not- right. That's the general consensus of the general public is, why the airport was there before you. You move there, you can't complain about the airport. However, you mentioning 250 touch and goes a day for free, right? They don't have to pay the airport.
From what they've gathered.
Yeah. So that begins to change. That's what we need to do here is we need to educate people. You're not talking about 10 landings a day and some airplanes going in and out,
Which I was fine with.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
exactly, because it's no longer an executive airport as they claim it to be. Now it is a flight school mill. And Anna mentioned the training planes that come out of Daytona, but it's not just Daytona. It's Ormond Beach. It's Jacksonville.
New
It's
Smyrna.
Gainesville.
Wow.
It's New Smyrna Beach.
Port
It's from
Orange.
all the way west.
Palatka.
We've seen Palatka. We've seen
DeLand.
Merritt Island, DeLand.
It's like a kudzu.
And we have some realtors on the commission or as commissioners, correct? That would know stuff like when you're selling a house here, you know there's an airport there, and they
Yeah, they're not required to reveal that yet, but that's by design because there's been no noise study at Flagler Airport.
wow.
And as soon as they do a noise study and we realize that what they've been claiming, that the noise stays within the airport, which is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
how do you?
I can
There's
hear-
no wall
yeah, I
to
know,
keep
right?
the noise.
It's ridiculous that they would even put that out, but that's what their original airport environmental report says. It's a big, thick booklet that we have. It also shows the master plan. If you ask anybody for the airport master plan, you'll get circle jerked around, and then you won't be given anything. But it is in the 2009 environmental assessment for the airport, and it does show that their end game is a 7,000-foot long runway that will accommodate even larger, even louder
So 7,000
planes.
foot's going to take
Wow.
a large jet.
Well, yes, exactly, and that I believe is their end game. And the ordinance that they just
Well, yeah.
passed,
Why would you need that?
the
for-
ordinance
for
that they
small
just
planes?
passed gives them the justification to eminent domain
Here's the
people's
overlay
houses
zone.
It goes
in
past the one.
the Z section.
It goes past.
Yes.
Everything in
Yeah.
that overlay zone they have defined as airport. And now they have the authority to eminent domain anything that they've labeled as an airport hazard. My home is not an airport hazard, and neither is Anna. The airport hazard is the excessive training aircraft that's polluting our county and our city with lead and toxic chemicals. It should have been curtailed back in '08, as they promised to do in letters to the FAA, in which they agreed to enter an interlocal agreement with both Palm Coast and Bunnell to restrict the incompatible building of residential homes, churches, schools, and densely populated businesses around the airport, and they failed to do that.
Well, yeah. Now we're building communities right in the zone, like
On
a lot.
Citation,
Yeah, on
there's
Citation alone,
thousands
look
of
at all of 'em.
homes that should have been industrial uses that would have expanded our tax base. That's what they committed to. But
What year was it they committed to it?
'08,
08, she said.
and again
when
in
we had the crash.
17.
Right when we had the crash.
And then
Right.
what I call them as usual suspects, the usual suspects who have been around since ITT days and owned all this land, they placed all their cronies on the planning board, on the city council,
There's a shock.
on the county commission, and they formed an airport enterprise zone, and they, I'm going to use the word colluded because that's what it seems to be to me, whether that's, the legal term for it or not. They got together and they made this plan to kick the can down the road as long as they could on airport zoning regulations until every single piece of their property, they profited the maximum they could. They put in as many homes in there that they could, and all of these residents are going to suffer the toxic chemicals,
Oh yeah.
the nuisance noise, the stealing of our safety, health, and welfare, and our quality of life.
But even if they charged, I know you guys wanted to ban, you just don't want flight schools at all. You just want like the jet that comes in every once in a while
We
when
want it
they
to
don't
be
have any flights.
An
type thing.
executive airport.
But if they charged for them, how would you feel? If they actually charged for the touch and goes, and the county was actually, was making money off of this, even though they're still polluting
I
everything.
don't think there's any amount of money that could compensate for our children being poisoned by toxic
They
chemicals.
won't,
Yeah.
they won't charge because that would.
It would cut back on the
I
operations
think
that they
would
need for the
violate
grant
terms
money.
of their grant.
Oh, okay. Because when you first came in and you were talking about they're not even charging, I didn't know if that was something, or you just don't want the flight school, period. You just want the regular little jets coming in and not the expansion and not all of that because it's bringing in
No.
more garbage
Yeah,
into
and
our
to
environment.
clarify, when it was just the flight school out of Flagler, and they were just doing maybe 4 or 5 a day, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
But when you're
It's
inviting
tolerable.
all of Florida's airports to send their training students here, and 70% of the flights into Flagler Airport are training flights.
And who approves that? Who approves those training flights?
Nobody.
How is that even possible? Alan, how is that possible? Like Embry Riddle can just say, hey, we're going to fly in
They don't
20
even-
planes today to you. Have fun.
It's probably
Yeah.
FAA.
Now, here's the scary thing. They have visual flight rules only at the airport. They have no radar. And most of
Wow.
the time, there's one person in air traffic control center. And I've been up there. I asked for a tour. And while I was up there, and we were talking quietly in the background, we were told to shh, 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 I can't find this airplane. And we all were helping them try to find the airplane because there's, Anna said 5, but it's been times there's been 10 and 11 in the pattern. And then a helicopter goes up because they have to find a missing boy in the P
Yesterday
section.
was a near miss with the Flagler County helicopter and Embry-Riddle.
Oh, I'm sure. And you also have the hospital helicopter going off for
Yes.
accidents and things like that.
And mosquito control goes up and down. And, that's fine because that is a public benefit when they're spraying for mosquitoes. It's a public benefit when they're looking for a missing child. It's not a public benefit when
For
we
touch
get
and go.
nothing from it but toxic chemicals.
I mean, and I see why they're doing it because it is a safer environment for new pilots because it's not as busy.
No, 520 operations a day is
But that makes it sound like
busy.
it's more busy because, like, they used to justify it where it was quieter there than they Daytona, so it's easier for them to do touch and goes. But it doesn't seem like that
Not quiet. It's not quiet is the factor. It's free.
now. That too. And see, not everyone knows about this. Like, no one's really, you know what I'm saying, Alan? Like, they're not really educated on this to know. Because, like, I was oblivious. I was like, if you're gonna move there, there's an airport there. That's your
That's
fault.
what I was saying
And I was
earlier.
like,
That's the
after hearing her
consensus.
But
story,
that's
you know,
what
of her moving here, Anna, like, and them not being disclosed, and then knowing that there's commissioners that are realtors, I wonder how they would handle that if they were selling a house in that section. Would they let their clients know that, hey, there's an airport that has touch and goes all day, and you're in a lead.
There's a lot of new homes built.
Yeah.
In our neighborhood.
And they shouldn't have built. They
Section,
shouldn't have been built. It
that
should have.
people are not aware of this. There's a lot. It's the new people that are complaining, saying.
So
"We
if
never knew."
people want to help your cause, where can they go to join in to help your cause right now? And we're going to come back and do a part 2 because we have some other shows today, and we got to talk about this and this ongoing thing because obviously it's going to be ongoing for a while. But you said you had a website and everything. Could you let everyone know what that
I have
is?
a website, peaceforpalm.com, that has a petition.
We
I-
keep it updated too with the meetings that may.
But
He's going to put on the camera for us.
we need
Peaceforpalm.com.
we need people to attend these county meetings.
Yeah. They need to be heard.
Yes.
And if there's issues, it takes numbers. So yeah, no, I mean, now that people know peaceforpalm.com is where you can go sign the petition. When are when are the county commissioner meetings that you guys have been going to? Are they Tuesday nights, Monday nights,
Mondays, 9
Mondays
a.m.
and
5 p.m.
Tuesdays.
once a month? Okay.
Well,
Twice a month, yeah. And sometimes these things are on the agenda and sometimes they're not. But the community can make a 3-minute comment at the beginning and the end of every meeting and express their concerns, for any topic.
What did they just pass this past Monday?
What they passed was the airport zoning regulations
Which they
that
kept
should have been enacted in 2008 to prevent all the residential
Now
development.
it's just getting wider.
Now they've determined that our homes that were allowed to be built are airport hazard zones.
Wow.
And if they determine that they are in the way of what they want to do at the airport for growth, they can do an eminent domain and have those homes demolished.
Yes, they have it mapped out. You could see on their master plan. There's so many documents, and one of them is 1,000 pages. One of them is 900, and then they would change something, and you don't know they've changed it, or you don't know what they've changed. So you have to reread the whole thing to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
This is the plan that's in the master plan
Right.
for the 2009.
eminent domain.
Actually, have her hold it to
Wanna
that
hold
camera.
about your camera. And it shows the 7,000-foot runway, which hasn't been approved yet, but that's
What
the
they're
end-
working towards.
the end game.
The end game.
But they did say at this meeting that they're going to come out with a new airport master plan, which, this is 2009. Their airport rules and regulations are from 2008. They're so outdated, they don't even apply anymore to what we're looking at now. But this shows you all the homes in the U section that are going to be in this overlay zone.
And real quick, you said the noise testing has to be done whenever you buy a house, or they don't have to do that, like, so that realtors have to disclose you're getting into an airport.
They haven't done one ever. for noise. They've only come up with a model that says all the noise, 65 DNL, stays within the
We're
airport.
supposed to have noise monitors in these neighborhoods.
And also
they
air
don't.
quality monitors
air
to
quality.
check for lead in the air.
Well, everyone, I hope we open the door for some change, maybe, or, trying to help these two ladies out with this. There's several residents in this area. We're going to do a part 2 on this because there's so much to unfold here. And it's obviously going to be a continuing issue that we're going to be talking about. But thank you guys so much for your time. And I can't wait to have you back for part 2. And definitely keep us posted. And we'll see you next week in the Ruckus Room, everyone.
Thank you.